Welcome back, everyone, to... Oh, shit, I haven't got my AirPods in. Now we're talking. Welcome back, everyone, to Box Podcast. And it is officially the first race of F1. The 2026 season, the new regulations have come into effect. We have witnessed everything that these cars have to offer. And I've got to say it, I'm excited. We got given a dose of what these cars can provide this weekend. Granted, Ferrari effed it up, but I feel like we could be in for a very, very interesting season. Yeah, that Mercedes looks like a rocket ship in qualifying, but when it comes to race pace, Ferrari are right there. And who's going to win the championship, Matt?
Lewis Hamilton.
Sir Lewis Hamilton, exactly. But anyway, we are Box Podcast. Welcome if you are brand new. Please do click subscribe. Give us a 5-star rating if you are listening for the first time on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any other audio platform that you consume your podcasts on. You can catch more Box content on social media. Just search Box Clips on Instagram. Box Clips on TikTok and Box Pod on Instagram. That is where you will find us. Anyway, we have a lot to divulge. We are Box Pod, as I said, powered by Box Club. If you do want a 30% discount off an Ultra subscription, click the link in the description below. If you just want to download it for free, then do that because it is free on the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. Anyway, you don't want to hear about that. You want to hear all things Melbourne, and that is what we are bringing you this week. So strap in and prepare for a very, very important show.
All right, guys. So yeah, as Luke said, first race is done. 5 DNFs, a lot less than what I was expecting. 120 overtakes. Where in comparison to 2025, Luke, do you know how many overtakes there were last year?
At Melbourne?
At Melbourne.
Oh my God. I reckon a lot lower. I'm going to say 70.
45 overtakes last year. We've had 120 today.
Look, can I just say, I know that Ferrari, we will get onto this properly. Ferrari really effed this race up for us as fans. Whether you're a Ferrari or a Mercedes fan, Ferrari pissed this up the wall. But can I just say that when the racing was taking place, my God, was it beautiful? Oh my God, we had some proper racing. It felt incredible, but we will get onto that. Carry on.
It's really funny because, heading into this race, there has been a lot of speculation. Is it going to be good? Is it going to be bad? We know the drivers don't like it. We know the drivers prefer the last era of cars, okay? And it's interesting because George Russell came out after the race and there was a tweet that said, and it made me laugh because I'm going to say it because obviously everyone thinks I haven't got a Lando agenda. But there was a tweet that came out and said, oh my God, it looks like I'm going to have to hate George as well. I hated Lando last year. I'm going to have to hate George this year. And as soon as I saw that, it made me laugh because I thought that's what you're going to say about me. But George Russell came out after the race and said, look, last year, for F1 drivers, we all loved those regulations. We loved going as fast as you can. They loved it. But all fans hated it. Coming into this year, this is an era of car that drivers aren't really enjoying. However, fans now come out and go, they like it. So you can't win. And it got me thinking because, you and I, Luca, we've been a bit skeptical whether these regulations are going to be good or not. From what we've seen for the first 19 laps of today, and I say 19 laps because after that, as you said, Ferrari completely messed it up the wall.
It was barely 19. I think it was closer to maybe like 11 or 12, was it not?
Yeah, something like that. I keep thinking it's 19, but around that. And for what we saw, it was exciting. A lot of great overtaking between Charles, obviously, and George, and then all of a sudden Lewis started coming into play. Using his boost at different things. It's very strategic, isn't it? So, and then Kimi, I don't know where Kimi came because at one point he was 5 seconds behind. Next thing, he's a second behind Lewis before the pit stop, before the virtual safety car. So, from what we've seen, it could be a really exciting season. But look, it's the first race. I'm not going to get ahead of myself.
I think this is the thing with sport. You can never win, right? Last year, I'm not a driver. Last year, the drivers loved driving the cars, but the fans hated it. It was boring. Do you know what I mean? Like, last year was not a massively enjoyable watch. I would say largely the ground effect era was not a hugely enjoyable segment of F1 in its history to watch. Now, all of a sudden, we were given a taste today of some serious racing. Like, whether you think it's pure or not, like, oh, they're using boost and electrical power to do this, and they've got a harvest in this corner, and they're slowing towards the end of the straight. That's not proper racing or pure racing. Yeah, but was it good to watch? Did you enjoy it? Because I sure as hell did. That first 11, 12 laps, whatever it was, before the VSC came out, was on the edge of your seat stuff. Doesn't matter what way you look at it, whether you're a purist or you think V10s should be back or that Fangio's the best driver to ever participate in F1. It was sensational to watch as a fan.
I loved it. And for the first time in a long time, I was watching Lewis, and we're Lewis fans. If you're new to this podcast, we're Lewis fans, okay? I had a bit of hope. I was thinking we could actually see Lewis on the podium here. But step in, Ferrari strategy team. They completely ruined. We'll get on to that in a minute.
You talk about hope. For me, it wasn't even just hope for Lewis. It wasn't just like, as a Lewis fan, I've got hope. I was watching Charles race George, and I was like, there is hope for this season. I was like, if I get this every single race, man, I am a happy man. That is fine for me. I just want to see. I sat here. You check the receipts. You can't call me out on this. I sat here for the last 4 years and said, if there's racing, I don't care who's racing. Yeah, I want Lewis to win. But if I'm watching drivers go at it every single weekend, I'm fine with that.
And it was interesting, wasn't it? Because our group chat this morning, considering it was 4 a.m, was popping. Because I think all of us was like, this is fantastic. Leclerc's overtakes were brilliant. George's overtakes were brilliant. Lewis closing in, from the starts. It was just all round brilliant. And I think we're in for an exciting season. I'm not going to get ahead of myself, and I don't want to, we'll give it a few races before we can really say where we're at. But from what we've seen today, I'm hopeful. I'm really hopeful that we're in for potentially a fantastic season with 2-3 teams battling for the championship. That's what I want. And yeah, let's get into it, shall we? Because if you're new here, what we do, and we haven't done this in a while because there's been no race, we delve into each team. We just review their weekend. Still happy to do that, Luke, this week?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I think, as always, we should touch on the key points from each team. There'll be some teams that get spoken about more than others. If you're a fan of a certain team and they don't get spoken about, support a better team.
Can I just say, before we actually get into that, though, I've got a little quiz for you. Do you know...
Oh, not one of these.
The 2026 pole lap, which George Russell set yesterday, was a 118.5. Do you know what the 2025 pole lap was, which was carried out by Lando Norris?
I reckon it was a couple of seconds quicker. I reckon a 115 something.
It was 3.5 seconds quicker.
But.
Just saying.
That's an unfair comparison.
It is.
What was the pole lap in 2022? What was the pole lap in 2024? What was the pole lap in 2009? They are more fair comparisons.
Yeah.
When we hit regulation changes, we're fully expecting the cars to take a step back. That's normal. Anyone sitting there watching this and being like, well, the cars aren't as quick as last year. Yeah, of course they're not. They're brand new. Imagine if I was like, I don't know, Matt, you're a nurse. We're a nurse. And I'm like, forget everything you've learned and start again. Would you be as good as a nurse as you were last year? No, you'd have to work up to that. These cars are going to get quick, believe me. And I think they're going to get quicker than we can imagine. I believe these cars will be some of the quickest cars that we've seen.
All right, I wasn't being critical. I was just telling you.
No,
I was just giving you an insight, all right?
I'm not talking
down.
to you. I mean,
You're not talking to me. It's going to be a very weird podcast.
There are a lot of fans that are sitting here and watching this. I know because I see the commentary online. I see it from some of the boys in the group chat that think this isn't pure F1 or pure racing. And I just say, as fans, we need to sit here and think, what do we want from the sport? Do we want pure racing V10s going round? Or do we just want wheel-to-wheel racing in every single corner? I'd argue that. That's what we want as fans. Yeah. We're not in the car driving them. Does it matter if they're not as nice to drive? For us? No.
Do let us know. Right, where do you want to start? Where should we go? Let's start off with...
Let's start with the team that are suffering the most.
Oh, which one? Aston Martin, Cadillac?
I'm talking about the team that had one DNF, although he came back on track twice, I believe, and that ended up finishing the race plus 15 laps. So Lance Stroll was lapped, yes, 15 times, technically, at the Australian Grand Prix. Fernando Alonso...
But to be fair, Luke, it could have gone either way. He was in it right up until the end, okay?
It was touch and go. For a moment, I thought he might win it. And then reality set in. And Fernando Alonso retired the car twice, maybe 3 times. It was very early in the morning. I can't remember. Stinker weekend. Aston Martin, we knew were going to have the weekend from hell. And did they live up to expectations? For the first time, I think they did. Yeah.
It's interesting though, but one thing I do respect from Adrian Newey, he came out and he was fully transparent. Right from Friday, he was truly transparent that this is where we're at. We're not going to sugarcoat it. You know, some teams kind of wait until you see them in qualifying or, race pace and go, oh yeah, we really struggled. From Friday, he was pretty there. He said, we're not even going to finish the race. Some drivers may have even said 35 laps because they got so much vibration.
The precedent that they set in testing was borderline abhorrent. It wasn't even laughable. It was despicable. It was so bad that I think if they came here being like, yeah, we're feeling quite positive after that session, I think everyone would be like, what the hell are you talking about? I mean, I saw the comments from Lance Stroll that I've got up here in front of me, which was, at least you had a start, you did some racing. Have you learned anything? Lance Stroll's response was, well, racing is a strong word. We circulated. Truest thing that man has ever said. That's what they went round in circles for not even that long, maybe 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's I have to say though, Fernando Alonso just missed out on Q2. He qualified P17.
I would say this might sound bizarre. Fernando Alonso had a fairly decent weekend given the circumstances.
I would agree. His start today, right, he qualified P17. At one point he was up to P10 after the first lap. He had a fantastic start. So
for a car that barely works.
Yeah, I think for Aston Martin, yes, okay, it's not where they want to be in the slightest. This Honda engine is they've sold Aston Martin a dream which they cannot deliver on currently. And
I hope they've kept the receipt, genuinely.
I hope they got a 30-day refund because it is shocking. But I think there's certain positives that they can take from it. That launch today, and I don't know if you've seen it. Go and watch Fernando Alonso start. It was brilliant. It really was brilliant. And for a few laps, he was holding on to P10. But yeah, after that, it just went downhill from there. But yeah, difficult weekend for Aston Martin, which I expected. Obviously, I can't expect much is going to change ahead of China, simply because they haven't got that much time to turn it around. So it'd be interesting to see what they can do there. But yeah, a weekend to forget for the likes of Aston Martin and Adrian Newey.
Yeah, or a weekend to remember that this is the low point. Everything we've learned from here and testing, let's take this and move forward. Because I don't think, no one wants a team in the sport that is performing that poorly. You could be the biggest Aston Martin hater out there, but come on. As a lover of F1, you want to see everyone given a fair shot and actually competing week in, week out. There's no point. If Aston Martin spend the season like this, there's no point turning up. And there just isn't.
I think we've got to remember, cast our minds back to 2022. Both McLarens were... Well, I mean, I think they did like 5 pit stops, didn't they, in their first race?
Lando did, because he had the hydraulic issue.
They were at the back of the grid. They were slow. There was no performance in that car. Roll on a couple of years, they're winning Constructors' Championships. They're battling for championships. And they're obviously giving Lando Norris a championship. So, yes, this is the first race. This is a very, for Aston Martin and Lawrence Stroll, who spent so much money on this team. It is, you'd be gutted at this moment in time. However, they've got Adrian Newey. They've got a strong team there. They've invested good money. If Honda can turn it around, because we know Honda can make good engines. We've seen it with the likes of Red Bull over the years. They can turn that around. But there's no reason why maybe in a few, come the end of the season, next season, whatever, Aston Martin will be challenging again.
The problem is that we know that Honda can make terrible engines. I think that's where I'd be as an Aston Martin fan. I'd be thinking, yeah, okay, Honda can make some good stuff. They make some fucking dreadful stuff as well. And that is the issue. But
Luke, I'm just trying to give some hope to the Aston Martin fans here, okay?
Okay,
just remember
everyone, Honda can make good engines.
Right, let's move on.
Yeah, look, a weekend... I'm not going to say a weekend to forget for Aston, a weekend to learn for Aston Martin.
Exactly.
I think someone or a team that it is a weekend to forget. Do you know who I'm going to say?
McLaren.
No, because McLaren would like to forget this weekend. I don't think they need to.
Are you thinking
I think there's a team.
Cadillac
shouldn't even, this weekend doesn't exist for
Red
them.
Bull.
No, again, a great weekend for Red Bull. Look,
Audi.
Reliability issues, but look at what Max Verstappen did.
Okay,
There's one
team?
obvious team. There's an obvious team that I think is a weekend to forget.
Oh, Williams.
Exactly. Williams is a weekend to forget. It's not only a weekend to forget, it's the start of a season to forget. This is...
Well, let's break it down.
Yeah, go.
Carlos Sainz didn't even participate in qualifying. Alex Albon qualified P15, okay? When you look at the race day, Carlos Sainz P15, Alex Albon P12. This is worrying times for Williams. And I say that because for the last 2 years since James Vowles has been there, all we've heard is 2026, we're building for 2026. You've hyped this up, and granted, it's only race one, but you've hyped it up so much that you've given all Williams fans hope that Williams are going to be back on top. They're going to be challenging for championships again, and you come to race one after hyping it so much for 2 years, bringing in the likes of Carlos Sainz, doing all the right things behind the scenes, and you deliver this. It is embarrassing.
You know, Carlos Sainz was lapped twice. Alex Albon was lapped once. And look, Williams are a team that since James Vowles has come in particular, have really pushed forward. You know, we've spoken so highly about everything that's gone on there. And look, it's so early into the season. It's race one, man. I mean, next week everything could look different, and the week after that even more different. And there's still so much learning to do, but
I think
they
you've got
were
to,
a team.
I think you've got to remember though, they finished P5 in the constructors, and yes, granted it's only race one, but when you're looking at the teams today who look better than Williams, RBs look better than Williams, Haas look better than Williams, Audi, I mean, unfortunately Hulkenberg didn't start, but Audi even look better than Williams.
And I don't think even the issue is that they did well last season. I think the issue is more that there's been a lot of talk about this 2026 car. There's been so much talk about it. If you go back over the last year or 2 years and you listen to sort of Williams' commentary, it's all about the target on 2026, and they're nowhere near it. No. They are nowhere near it. It doesn't matter what way you flip this. Williams are nowhere near where they need to be. You know, if they have genuinely spent the past 2 years focusing on this, what have they been focusing on? Would be my question.
Yeah, I'd be going back and going, what have we actually done in the last 2 years? But yeah, tough weekend for Williams. And even James Vowles spoke afterwards. They've got a lot of work to do. They've got a lot of work to do there.
But this is the beauty of the new regulations.
Things can change very quick.
4 or 5 races time, man, this could look so different. So different. Williams may be a team that are fighting at the front of the pack. We don't know.
Let's talk about Cadillac. Their first race, their first...
Do you know what? Matt, you talk about Cadillac. I'm going to go for a wee.
Okay.
I've got nothing I want to say about this team anyway.
Okay. All right.
Whether you think coming into the sport and, I know they've come in with technically no prior experience. That's why you get good at hiring. Disaster weekend for them.
Okay, all right. Well, you go for a wee.
I'll be back in a second.
And by the time you're back, I should have finished with Cadillac. I'll be on a new team. Okay. Right, Cadillac. Bottas qualified P19. Sergio Perez P18. Head into the race today. I mean, look, Bottas caused a virtual safety car. He ended up retiring. Sergio Perez ended up finishing P16. It was a tough weekend. Look, we know it was always going to be a big ask for them to come into the sport of F1 and deliver from word go. They've got a lot of work to do. They've obviously got experienced heads there with Perez and Bottas. Can they actually turn that around and actually start to become competitive? I'm not so sure. I'm personally expecting them to be at the back of the grid for majority of the season. But yeah, it's a tough weekend for Cadillac. Proud weekend because obviously they've made their debut in F1. But, they spoke a lot afterwards on the radio saying, there's a lot of work we can do on here. It's been positive. We can do a lot of things. Let's see how they go. But it's a very, very inexperienced team in a fast-paced F1 world. So it's going to be interesting to see how they turn that around. But I would say a weekend to forget for the likes of Cadillac. Luke's not back from a wee, so I'm going to actually continue. Let's go to Haas, shall we? Because Ollie Behrman qualified P12. And where did Ocon qualified P13? I have to say it. I think Ollie Behrman is fantastic. I really do. Another phenomenal race today. P7 for the Haas team, picking up points. He's done that all last year. Sorry, Luke, you're back, but we're on Haas now.
I can't believe it. I heard that. I've gone for a wee. Only a wee, might I add. Sorry, my fucking chairman is a nightmare. It's like curling up so it catches my wheels. I've only gone for a wee, and we're already done with Cadillac, are we?
Yep, already done. We're on Haas. I'm just saying, Ollie Behrman, P7 today. Another brilliant weekend for him. Ocon, P11. Look, we started the beginning of 2025 season. Well, actually, Luke did, saying he's not so sure Ollie Behrman will do that well. Mm-hmm. He surprised us massively last year. He's one for the future. He really is. He was brilliant today.
Not even one for the future. He's one for now. I mean, you are completely right. I came out here and I said I don't think Ollie Behrman is as good as what people make out. I said that. I stand by the fact that his performance in Saudi Arabia was not as amazing as people made out.
Move on, Luke. Move on. He's proved himself now.
I will die on that hill. But Ollie Behrman has come into the sport and proven himself as a very, very competent F1 driver. And I think, yeah, look, there's a very high chance that we will see that man driving a Ferrari one day. No, it was a great weekend for Haas. For Haas to finish, P7 in first race of the season, along with P11, which I know is not point scoring, but it's very close. If you're not going to score points, you want to be P11 because then you know that next race you've got that opportunity.
All right, you all right, Will Buxton.
I know that did sound a bit Will Buxton, but do you know what I mean? You'd rather finish P11 than P17 because you're then thinking, well, next race maybe I'll finish P10.
Yeah, true.
Rather than being like, well, if I don't score points, it doesn't matter where I finish. Yeah, you'd rather finish in that position. But yeah, a good weekend for Haas. I think. Look, the Ferrari power unit. I know Cadillac kind of disproved this point a little bit, but the Ferrari power unit looks strong.
But we always said that. We didn't really include Cadillac in that. We always going to say Ferrari and Haas. They're the main ones.
I wonder how Cadillac have got it so wrong.
The drivers. They've got two OAPs driving it. What do you expect?
Clip that. I want that clipped.
Well, you can clip it, mate. You can clip it. What do you expect?
So you think the issue with Cadillac is their drivers?
No. Well, having two OAP drivers, but also they're a very inexperienced team. They're a very inexperienced team. This is a whole new world for them. So that's why I think they've got it so wrong, because they're learning. They're learning along the way.
Yeah, but Valtteri Bottas and Sergio Perez don't have much time left to learn.
Hence why I don't think they're the right drivers. But Sergio Perez, has been on holiday for last year. Bottas has been standing next to Toto Wolff.
I'm sorry. Given his result today, it was like he was still on holiday. He got lapped 3 times.
Yeah. And what I'm saying is, Valtteri Bottas, right, for the last year, has been given a back massage to Toto Wolff for the last year. So what do you expect? Neither of those have driven a car for the last year.
Yeah, but I'm just trying to sit here and work out, is it the drivers or is it the team have not cocked it up, because that's so harsh, because they're a new team, but new team or not, I'm not being funny. Technically, Audi are a new team. I mean... No.
They've got that experience. Look, they've got Jonathan Wheatley, they've got Binotto, they've got Hulkenberg. That's a completely... And they were under stake last year. Their foundations are still there from last...
All right. Okay, so it's all well and good us sitting here slating Cadillac, but Aston Martin?
Yeah, but... but we... Okay, your question was the Ferrari
If Cadillac
engine.
are a cold, then Aston Martin are a terminal illness. I mean, they're in different categories.
No, okay, you asked me about why the engine is so wrong. Cadillac have got a Ferrari engine. Aston Martin have got a Honda engine that is just not functional. That's the difference.
Yeah, I think Honda just pulled the engine from a fucking Civic and put it in the car. They've not even worked on an F1 engine. Whoever was on that project fucking skimped out over summer, realised, oh fuck, that's due in 24 hours. It's like, here you go, plonk, Civic engine. That's what he's given them.
I heard it was a Fiat Punto.
It wouldn't be a Fiat Punto because they're Honda.
Ah, true. Civic, correct. Actually, a Fiat Punto could be the Cadillac engine.
They might have skimped out and bought us a Punto engine. It does seem like there's a discrepancy there, because I know this is not all power unit, but we know that PU and battery deployment is quite integral to this set of regulations. And, you know, we saw the Haas benefit quite nicely. The Ferrari obviously excelled. Yeah, Cadillac really were unable to put a lap together, but I don't know. And like I say, I want to see all teams performing.
Luke,
I'd rather 22 drivers in a championship battle than 2.
Luke, I'm not being funny. You went for your Wii. I've spoken about Cadillac. Let's move on, all right?
Yeah, right. And we've done Haas as well.
Yeah, we've done Haas, all right? Right, where are we going? Let's go to McLaren, all right? Let's pick one of the championship team from last year. Look, tough weekend for the McLaren boys. Oscar Piastri.
Tough is
it's an understatement.
I mean, it was. Yeah, I mean, for Oscar Piastri, it might be the worst weekend of his life.
What did you make of that? Because I woke up right at 10 to 4, and in the group chat I saw, whoa, what's happened to Piastri? And I was like, what? I have no idea. So it wasn't until I saw it online.
I had an error.
Yeah.
I woke up at 20 past 2. The race was at 4 o'clock, right? And I rolled over and I looked at my phone and I was like, oh fuck. I was like, I've got to wake up in 20 minutes. I might as well just get up now. It's like, there's no point going back to sleep for 20 minutes. Sat on my phone, woke myself up, got to like 20 to 3, and I was like, oh, I don't have to wake up until 3:45, not 3:45.
So my friend messaged me right this morning when during the race. He woke up at, so what was the race for? He woke up, set his alarm for 10 to 5 because he was still thinking it was qualifying at 5 o'clock yesterday. He thought it was 5 o'clock today. Woke up.
He missed the best part.
Yeah, turned on the TV. Basically, there were 34 laps in, and he was like, "What the hell has gone on?" It wasn't until he looked online that he realised it was meant to be 4 o'clock. So I think that's happened to a lot of people. If that's happened to you, do let us know. But yeah, McLaren, I felt really sorry for Piastri. His home race,
yeah, it's
difficult in qualifying. Those cars, unfortunately, from lap to lap, look unsteady. For certain teams, certain drivers, they just look really.
They do, but to crash out on your, the lap to the grid it will be embarrassing. I mean, fucking hell, we spoke about Isaac Hadjar last year, which was particularly humiliating. We said that at the time.
I heard when Hadjar retired, Oscar Piastri went along to Hadjar and had a chat with him about how he dealt with it after last year.
Yeah, well, there's no better person to ask, but, we can talk about Isaac Hadjar's being embarrassing, but it doesn't matter whether it was the car or not. Like, Oscar Piastri will be embarrassed by what happened today. But, come on. You look at that. That was not a driver error. That wasn't Oscar Piastri putting it in the wall there. That something happened there. I don't know what. Maybe your conspiracy from last season is just continuing on. They really don't want Oscar to win the championship.
Zach Brown turned down the PSI in his right-hand tyre, so when he took it, Zach Brown.
That was it.
You, mate.
It was fun. It was Zach's fault. But I think Oscar, this is going to be a weekend to forget. Lando Norris, I think to some extent will want to forget this weekend. I actually think Lando had a really decent race in the end.
He got the best out of it. He got the best out of it. And I think taking a P5, especially with how good Ferrari and Mercedes looked, I think they're the best of the rest, aren't they?
And that's the key factor. You know, to finish nearly 52 seconds behind the leader, George Russell, for a team that has just won back-to-back Constructors' Championships, they've just won the World Drivers' Championship. It's not acceptable in their eyes.
No, it would be a tough one. I expect him to come. I expect him to come back. It's, as I said, his first race. It would be interesting. Red Bull, Max Verstappen, brilliant drive today, coming back from the back of the grid, finishing in P6.
I said in my prediction last week, Max Verstappen P3. Granted, all my predictions were wrong. That's fine. There is no other driver on the grid, and I will say this time and time again. There is no other driver on the grid that could have taken that car from where Max started to P6.
No, I agree. Not in these new regulations as well. The fact he did that is impressive.
That car is not particularly special. I think we saw that with Isaac Hadjar. The car was fine where it was on the grid. It was never capable of racing the Ferraris or the Mercedes. I think if you stuck anyone else in Max Verstappen's position, starting on the grid, they do not finish P6. No. And comfortably, you know, Max almost comfortably P5. Finished P6. Yeah, and he was racing Lando, who started all the way up front. You know, let's not discredit how impressive Max's race was, despite how enjoyable it was to watch him bin it in qualifying, because it was enjoyable as us Lewis fans that watched Max become a robot over the last 4 to 5 years, an indestructible robot that is just pumping out lap after lap after lap, dropping sensational drive after sensational drive.
Yeah.
Watching him throw it into the gravel and the wall was delightful.
These are the views of Luke Martin, not me.
They are, but my views are that, come on, he proved that he is the best man on the grid.
Yep.
During the race, because no one else could have done what he did on the Sunday.
Completely agree.
And I stand by that.
But can we just say, Red Bull finally have a good second driver. And I'm going to say the statement now. Isaac Hadjar qualified P3. His start, he lost a couple of places, but up until that point, he was closing in. He was looking all right. Unfortunately, he had a DNF, but he's the real deal. I really do believe that. And I think when Tsunoda went to Red Bull, we're a bit like, oh yeah, no, I think he'll do well. Hadjar, the fact he qualified P3, I think he's going to have a great season. I really do.
I think the difference between Tsunoda and Hadjar is that everyone wanted Tsunoda to do well, whereas I think everyone believes that Hadjar will do well. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I look at Isaac Hadjar and I think, do I think you're a Max Verstappen? No. You know, those drivers come around once in a generation. But do I think you're a very, very competent driver? Maybe even a world championship potential driver? Of course. I think Isaac Hadjar has everything you need to go on and win a world championship. Just not while you're driving alongside Max Verstappen.
Yeah, true. It's interesting because Max Verstappen got driver of the day today. And I don't know if you've seen his reaction. It was like, yay! Like, he just absolutely taking the piss. My driver, I want to talk about this team, and my driver of the day goes to Arvid Lindblad. What a
Yeah, what a
drive.
boy.
What 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 a debut. 18 years old, okay, coming into the sport. He qualified. Where did he qualify? P9. He got out qualified by Liam Lawson, but he ended up finishing P8, picking up points on his debut. He was brilliant. He was up to P3 after the first lap.
Yeah, I mean,
Mental. Absolutely mental.
Look, I knew he was going to be good. We've spoken about him on here before. I think everyone knew he was coming in and he was going to be impressive. I don't think people expected him to be that impressive. That was a really, really good first drive.
And
Really
do you know what? He's a really likable character. I don't know if you saw his interviews after with Jensen Button, but I think I'm going to like him. I think he's decent. I mean, he looks like a great character to have.
I'm not being funny. It's good to have another English driver, British driver, whatever you want to call them, on the grid.
Do you know what? I think he's going to be my rookie of the season.
Hang on. Is he not the only rookie of the season?
Yeah, but I think, for me, I think Arvid Lindblad is going to be my rookie of the season.
Yeah, well, I think that's a great shout.
Thank you very much. Right, do you know he is the youngest point scorer? He's the third youngest point scorer. Luke, can you tell me who the other two are?
Max Verstappen.
Yep. Max Verstappen is the youngest at 17 years, 5 months and 29 days.
Arvid Lindblad is 18 years. Oh, Kimi Antonelli.
Kimi Antonelli, 18 years, 6 months and 19 days. Arvid Lindblad becomes the third youngest driver at 18 years and 7 months.
Isn't that impressive, though? That these aren't drivers from like the 80s, the 70s. You can get into the sport at such a young age. Max Verstappen came into the sport as a bloody hell. What were you doing at 17? I was spudding about bunking lessons at college to go to Costa Coffee. Max Verstappen was racing against some of the greatest names that we've ever heard in F1. And now you've got Kimi Antonelli who's entering that, and then Arvid Lindblad. And I just think, how incredible that if you're a young person, you're like, your end goal might not even be that far away from you.
I'll give you 5 points if you can tell me who the fourth youngest driver was.
Which means it's probably
one of the best on the grid.
Yeah, I would say probably Charles Leclerc then.
No, this guy, right? Phenomenal driver. We speak about him a lot. Very complimentary.
It's not Lance Stroll.
Lance Stroll.
Really?
18 years, 7 months and 13 days.
Wow, you see? And there is the difference between raw talent and nepotism.
There we go. But absolutely phenomenal from Arvid Lindblad today. Points on his first race. He's looking good.
And I mean, I'm not being funny. I think the Racing Bulls will look at this weekend and be pretty satisfied with where they are. I think they'll look at the...
You've got to feel
Isaac
sorry for
Hadjar.
Liam Lawson, though, haven't you? Liam Lawson, right, gets dropped by Red Bull. You thinking, okay, he's going to go back. He's surely going to end up beating Isaac Hadjar. Loses out to Isaac Hadjar. Isaac Hadjar then gets a seat at Red Bull. You're then thinking, okay, right, we've got an 18-year-old coming in, and Liam Lawson's thinking, easy, absolute easy one. This one, I'm going to wipe the floor with him. First race, he's already outscored him points wise.
I'm gonna be honest. Liam Lawson might be a dud. I feel like based on your face, I feel like you agree with me. He might just be a dud. I think he's probably in the sport because he's in the sport.
I would agree with you. I think he maybe isn't as good as what we initially thought. But it's only race one. It's only race one. Liam Lawson ended up finishing P13 today.
I always just think of him when something happens to the car or it crashes or something. He's like, "Well, I don't know what happened there, mate." And I just think, surely you should know what happens. And he probably said the same thing when Lindblad finished 8th and he finished 13th. But look, I hope the best for Liam Lawson because I like him as a character. I actually really like how he gave shit to Sergio Perez, and I really liked how that carried on today. Not because Perez fans, before you pipe up, I'm not interested. Not because I dislike Perez. I actually am glad to see Sergio Perez back on the grid. But because I love the fact that this sort of young buck came in and attempted to assert his dominance, and I respected it. That's all. And then, he had the whole drama with Red Bull, which I really felt for him. I felt no one should go through that, and no one should have ever put him through that. So I think I want the best for Liam Lawson, but I just think he's a bit of a dud.
Do let us know. Let's quickly get on to Alpine, and then we'll get on to the main ones, Ferrari and Mercedes. Alpine, Pierre Gasly. Points today for Alpine, especially after a difficult season last year. Coming away from Australia with a point. I think they'll take that today. Colapinto, right? I was sceptical. But, my God, I have so much respect for you. How you avoided Liam Lawson on the start. And if you haven't seen it, it is one of the most incredible saves or near misses I've ever seen in F1.
Was this the greatest save in F1 history?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure there are plenty in the archive files. I think what comes to mind is Isaac Hadjar in Monaco when he was racing in F2.
Yep.
This one, in my opinion, is in a different category to that. I've never seen anything so cat-like in my fucking life.
I've watched it about 8 times, and each time I do not know how he missed reacted. Liam Lawson.
It was incredible, and I know what Colapinto fans are going to say. You don't even like Franco. It's not true. It's just not true. I do like Franco Colapinto. I want that man to succeed. I'm just skeptical as to whether he will. But my God, his reaction time. Good luck to anyone getting into a fight with him. He's like fucking Spider-Man. Ridiculous.
It was impressive. It's an amazing save. And if you haven't watched it, please go and check it out and then drop a comment. I'm sure we do this as a clip, but go and drop a comment because it was phenomenal. He saved Liam Lawson's life today. 100%. Yeah. Very impressive from Colapinto. Right, that's Alpine. Let's get on to Ferrari and Mercedes, okay? Let's do... Yeah, go on in.
Can I just say?
Nope.
It's a new year, but it is the same old Ferrari. They not only robbed us as fans of an unbelievable race between 2 teams. Yes, for once we were going to see racing between 2 teams. But they robbed us of potentially a double podium for Ferrari.
Yeah, but don't worry, Luke. Don't worry, because Fred Vasseur has come out and he said, I have no regrets on the strategy. No regrets on the pace of today.
He should regret everything about today. He should regret Oh my God. There's no way he's come out and said that.
Mate, here you go. It's on Sky Sports. He's come out and his words, right? I have no regret on the strategy, no regret on the pace of today. Fred Vasseur says he has no regrets over Ferrari's strategy during the Australian Grand Prix.
If this was a criminal trial, he'd be prosecuted for longer because he didn't show remorse. I mean, that is ridiculous. There's no way. There's no way that anyone in a sane mind can sit there. How can we, as F1 fans, not educated, I haven't been to university to study this, I've got no experience, how can I sit there, watch the race, and be like, they should pit? And they don't know it.
Yeah, but they knew better, mate, because they knew they hadn't learned from the McLaren's fiasco last year in Qatar, right? They haven't learned from any of that stuff. They still think they know better. All the other teams are pitting, right? Nah, Ferrari genius, that is. Keep him out. That's why he has no regrets.
At what point are Ferrari going to stop trying to play 4D chess because they cannot fucking play it?
They're not Red Bull. McLaren tried it. McLaren tried it. They failed.
Just Lewis came over the radio and said, you should have at least pitted one of us.
Yep.
Yeah. You should. Okay. Oh, we're too close for the double stack. Granted. Not a bad shout. Hang on. VSC. We're not closing the pack up. You don't lose. Let's just pit one. And then if we can't pit the other, that's just the nature of the sport, right? We'll pit one, Charles, because he was in front. Then if we go around again and we can pit the other, we'll do that. Great. How about, instead of that, we just pit neither of them?
Yeah, but that works well because, do you know why, Luke? Because if you don't pit either of them, right, you're being equal. But it means that actually George Russell will catch you and you'll be almost a pit stop behind. There you go. Logic.
Today, Ferrari gave up 10 seconds. 10 seconds plus, because it doesn't matter what way you look at this, right? The 10 seconds is what you lose from pitting under VSC. Yeah. Okay. But what you fail to factor into that is what you lose through having that negative tyre offset. Okay, so you're always going to lose more on new tyres than what you gain. And you're always going to lose more on old tyres than what you're going to gain on fresh tyres, right? So Ferrari lost too much time on those old tyres, and the fact they missed out on a free pit stop
twice
compared to what they could have gained from getting fresher tyres later on.
Let's break it down, because the first VSC was for Isaac Hadjar, okay? So in my eyes, it's kind of like, okay, pit. Everyone else was pitting, just pit. They kept him out. So I was like, okay, well, interesting. They obviously got a plan here. They were hoping for another safety car or whatever. And then we get a Bottas pull up, another VSC. And it's interesting because I watched with Bernie Collins after. I didn't watch with Bernie Collins. I watched Bernie Collins talk about it.
What, were you out in?
I was out in Australia. I just got back. Yeah, I just got my private jet.
How is Bernie? How's she doing?
Yeah, she's all right. She said hello. She said, how you doing? Have you got any Activia reels coming up soon? Because she just wants to. She enjoyed them.
Cadbury Biscoff.
Yeah, because she enjoyed those. But watching what she was saying, because a lot of people, when I posted my clip earlier about it, were going, "Oh, well, the pit lane was closed." No, it wasn't. There was 19 seconds from where Charles Leclerc was on track to when he went past the pit lane. They had a choice there to pit him. Lewis Hamilton had longer than 19 seconds, but by the time both Ferraris went past the pit lane, neither of those, the pit lane wasn't closed. So they could have pitted both of them, realistically. So,
oh, come on. Like, again, any fan that was sitting at home and thought the Ferrari couldn't pit is just either blind or stupid. You could have seen, just watching it, that Ferrari could have pitted that second time. The pit lane, and I even said, I messaged in the chat, didn't I, saying something like, watch pit lane entry get closed. And in the time between I sent that, they could have pitted, and they didn't.
No. And it was just a missed opportunity. For me, it's a schoolboy error. And this is a thing which will fail Ferrari this year. And we said this back in 2022, where Charles was having that battle initially with Max. They made schoolboy errors. They haven't learned from that. And my worry is Ferrari can do everything they can. They can have the pace. They could be the fastest car on the grid. But it means nothing if the team on the pit wall are going to make these fundamental errors that will cost them race wins, cost them podiums. Because don't get me wrong, Ferrari may not have won that race today. George looked in a league of his own. However, Charles, maybe Lewis, could have been on the podium today. They may have missed out on maybe both cars being on the podium rather than both Mercedes being on the podium. So we'll never know what the outcome is. But we're leaving Australia going with frustration, the fact that actually Ferrari made fundamental errors today.
Yeah, we're leaving frustrated once again. I just think it's a pattern behavior. Like, we see this from Ferrari too often. And I think, at what point are they going to look at all parts of the team and say, no, we are really going to try and make this work now? That, whether they would have won or not, or had a double podium, irrelevant. They would have had a better chance, no matter what your argument, had they have pitted under VSC. And
we would have had better racing, because we would have had Mercedes and Ferrari going at it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. One thing all I would say is Lewis Hamilton is back. The racing you've seen today and what you saw at the weekend, he had issues in qualifying. In Q2, he had an issue with deployment, and again in Q3. But one thing I really saw from Lewis today was pace. How he was closing down Charles at the end in his final stint was old Lewis. The way he was at the beginning, challenging, going past, overtakes, that great double overtake on Isaac Hadjar and Lindblad. This was like prime Lewis Hamilton. And that for me was just great to see.
Look, Lewis Hamilton has never lost it. He just hasn't. He's never lost it. He has not fallen off. He's not succumbed to age. He's just... I genuinely don't believe he got along with the previous generation of cars, and that's fine. I think we're in for an unbelievable season. And I think we're going to see Lewis at the forefront of that. I think we're going to see Charles Leclerc at the forefront of that.
Charles was also fantastic today.
And I think we're going to see George Russell at the forefront of that.
Yeah. Let's get on to Mercedes, shall we? George Russell was pretty clinical all weekend. Fantastic pole lap. And today, yes, okay, didn't get a great start, got overtaken by Charles Leclerc, but those launches were just phenomenal. But George looked composed. Great overtaking. And actually, for George Russell, if this car is how it is, then he's definitely championship material this year. But one thing I would say, Kimi Antonelli, I've been very impressed with Kimi Antonelli this weekend. He had his crash in P3. They managed to get the car ready for qualifying, and then to still come out, put in a lap to get you into Q2 and move forward from that, and get onto and actually qualify P2. That was a very, very professional drive from Kimi Antonelli this weekend.
We talk about Max Verstappen being driver of the day. I think in some respect you could look at Kimi Antonelli as being driver of the weekend. Granted, big smash up, not ideal, but to then come out and put the car on the front row, to then drive the way he did in the race and finish P2 after all the struggles that he had last season. We know Kimi really struggled last season. There's no denying that. He finished P7 or whatever it was in the Drivers' Championship, whereas George Russell, really excelled last year. for Kimi Antonelli to come out this weekend after such a big crash and do what he did, I think it was super impressive. And I think, I look at Kimi and I think, I think you can help this team. I actually think after that first race, I look at him and I think, fair play.
He was even closing down George at the end of the race as well. So I think we're going to be very, very surprised with Kimi Antonelli. I think he's going to do a lot better than what we think.
But here's the thing: I don't think a lot of people will be surprised.
No.
To see Kimi Antonelli do well. We even said last season, just because Kimi Antonelli wasn't doing great, I don't think anyone doubted his ability or his his potential, but we just didn't see it. And I think the caveat to that was, well, we had to see it this year, because if we didn't see it this year, then he wouldn't have a chance to prove that he does have it. And I think off the first race, not least because he finished second, but because of everything that came with the whole weekend, Kimi has proven for now that you can count on him.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's all the teams. Shall we quickly... Oh, actually, no, I didn't say about Audi. Bortoleto, fantastic. Points, P9 today. Hulkenberg, unfortunately, didn't start, which was disappointing for them. But I think they're going to do all right this year, Audi. I think they're going to do all right.
Do you know what? Do you know the worst part about this? I sat there when I was building my F1 fantasy team, and I said, Bortoleto or Hulkenberg? You know who I went with.
Hulkenberg.
Yeah. Cannot believe it. But, look, I think Hulkenberg will...
He'll be fine.
I think Hulkenberg will do great. I tell you what, I do think Bortoleto will match him, if not outperform him this season.
Yeah, he's looking good. He is looking good.
He's looked good. He looked really good through... We praised him the first half of last season for being very consistent and not crashing, which might sound stupid, but look, he didn't cause Audi a stake at the time a big bill in damages. I think for the longest time he didn't crash, and then he did. I can't remember where, maybe Silverstone or somewhere. And then he started pulling performances out the bag as well, and we saw him in F2. Obviously, he won the F2 championship. He was extremely competent. He was up against Isaac Hadjar, who we all speak so highly about. Gabriel Bortoleto is no schmuck, right? Just because he raced for Stake last year, and just because he's now at this new Audi team who are not at the forefront of the pack, Gabriel Bortoleto is no schmuck. And I think
he's going to be good.
We're going to see an impressive season from him.
Yeah, I agree. Let's quickly touch on China, shall we?
China.
Is that everything for Australia? Anything else to add?
Yeah, I think, look, largely it was really disappointing. If I was to sum it up, it was really disappointing that Ferrari took that race away from us. And
it's like you had it's like being at a restaurant, isn't it? You had this amazing starter come out. You're like, oh wow, this is like Michelin star food. You know, this is going to be amazing. All of a sudden, your mains comes out, and you're a bit like, okay, well, this isn't great. And then the dessert comes out, and you're actually thinking to yourself, what the hell has Ferrari done? We're just blaming everything on Ferrari.
You just, instead of bringing out a dessert, you just got like a fucking plate of dog poo come out, and you're just like, you know, that was essentially the way it went. It went from here, if you're watching, all the way down to here. And
also, can I just say, sorry to interrupt you, right? Why are we back to a one stop? These hard tyres just going the whole race. Why have we got back to this? Why? We were thinking it's going to be a 2 stops a day, but no. George, I'll just go on the hards until the end. Why have we still got this? Oh,
yeah.
Pains me.
I don't understand how they're not making it so that a two-stop is quicker. You know, that's... But then I guess the thing is if you limit it to, well, a two-stop is quicker than a one-stop, you're in the same position. But yeah, my God, it is...
You know, Martin Brundle kept going today. Martin Brundle kept going today, like, oh, you know, this is the pendulum is swinging back to Ferrari. Even after they... No, it wasn't.
No, Matt, I have something to say on Sky F1 commentary. Sky F1, if you're watching, which you're not, but if you ever do, I just want to preface this with, I really do love you. And I'm a big fan of Martin Brundle, Bernie Collins, I love her. The whole setup is great. I love watching Sky F1, right? Especially now you've got rid of Danica Patrick. But today, please, for the love of God, can you stop hyping up the race when it's just not happening? I'm not being funny. Martin Brundle at one point said, well, Lewis Hamilton is just within 3 seconds of Charles Leclerc now. He had been for about 10 laps. And then talking about the pendulum swinging Ferrari's way. And then Bernie Collins, the most intelligent person on that Sky F1 team, comes over with 10 laps to go. Lewis Hamilton might be, I think at this point, 6 seconds, probably less, maybe 3 seconds behind Charles Leclerc, who is 6 seconds or so behind Kimi Antonelli. Says, well, when Lewis catches up with Charles, he's going to be the best person to go for the Mercedes. 10 laps at 0.2 a lap is 2 seconds. He's not even catching up to Charles with that advantage. So can we stop hyping up the race when there's nothing to hype up? Please, for the love of God. All it does to us fans is piss us off.
There you go. Right, quickly touch on China. So FP1 is on Friday, 3:30 a.m. till 4:30. Sprint quali.
Fucking not again.
Sprint quali is 7:30 until 8:14 on Friday. Nice. I like that. The sprint race. Last year, if you remember, we got up to watch Lewis Hamilton win the sprint race. We'll have to do it again this year for 3 a.m. to 4 a.m. Then we have qualifying. So actually, Luke, if you set your alarm like you did today, you'll be up on time. Qualifying on Saturday is 7 to 8. Nice. And the race on Sunday is 7 until 9 a.m. Much more civilized.
That's a beautiful time.
I like that. I like that.
But I think China has got some big things in store for us. I think,
I'm looking forward to it.
Look, Albert Park is not famous for being a great track for overtaking or a great track for racing, but actually for those first 10, 12 laps, it did provide us that. China is much more a proper, in quotes, racetrack. And I think we could be in for a lovely, lovely weekend. I think hopefully. Also, how exciting is it going to be watching these cars on a shorter run?
A lot more corners, which, as we know, Ferrari look good in the corners. Got a lot of pace in the corners as well.
I think, look, at this point, I know we're going to do predictions. There's no point betting against anyone other than Mercedes or Ferrari. We know that their straight line speed is going to be important here. But we do also know that this is going to sound so Will Buxton. But also there is going to be a lot to be found in the corners here. And I think we're going to see, because you've got kind of two parts of the track, right? You've got sector 1 once you come around the straight into that part where it is very corner heavy.
Netflix, if you need a replacement next year, Luke is your man, all right?
I'll step in. I don't care. And then you've got sector 3, which is very, we are straight lines. where, you know, your power unit is going to be heavily relied upon. I think we're going to see a good race between the pair of them.
I'm excited.
And we talk about power unit. That Ferrari is not slow. You know, Charles was not just being bent over by George on those straights. He was still holding his own.
The overtake is very, very key, and I think that's where you play it. It's very strategic, isn't it? So it's going to be a lot to play for next week. But we've had a little appetite today from what we can expect, and a little taster. So I'm excited. I'm excited for China next week. But I believe that is the end of the podcast.
We haven't even done your predictions.
Oh yeah, sorry, Luke. Top 3 for the Chinese Grand Prix.
The problem is Matt is getting quite old now. Since we started the podcast, he's aged a lot more than I have.
It's past my bedtime.
I think he might be getting dementia.
And also probably because we've been up since 4 a.m.
Well, actually, I've been up since 2 a.m.
Luke, who's your top 3 for the Chinese Grand Prix?
Well, obviously, based off last year's sprint, there's no better choice than Sir Lewis Hamilton. So, no, I mean, realistically, I think we'll see Lewis on the podium. I think George Russell is going to win in China. But I think we're going to see George, Lewis, Charles in that order.
Yeah, that was actually going to be mine. That was literally going to be mine. I think the only difference maybe it might be Charles P2, Lewis P3, but one other. I think George will win it, but I think you'll have both Ferraris on the podium.
I think at this point, what I can bank on is that Lewis and Charles are... You'd bet on them over Kimi Antonelli. George Russell is... best placed for this. That car is superior. It is quick, and they have a supreme driver at the wheel. But look, I think any of those 4 could win the race. Truthfully, I don't know enough at this point to confidently say, well, this is going to be a Ferrari track, or well, this is going to be a Mercedes track. But I think after this weekend, we can look at the Ferrari and say, that's a very good race car. And off the line, exceptional. I think we'll probably see one of the Ferrari boys lead the race again. But that Mercedes looks pretty impressive.
Do let us know who's your top 3 for next weekend's Grand Prix. Do let us know also what your thoughts are on everything we've said today. We'll obviously be back next week reviewing the Chinese Grand Prix. Hopefully you've enjoyed the podcast. Hopefully you're enjoying F1 is back, because I most certainly am. And yeah, have a good week, and we shall see you soon. Bye-bye.